Hello, I'm Mary Miles, and I'm joined by my fellow board member Eva Malice. We welcome you to the Hellenic Film Society's March celebration of Greek women in the film industry for Women's History Month. Today, we have the great pleasure of speaking with actress Daphne Alexander.
Daphne was born on Cyprus and studied law at Oxford University before training at LMADA. You may recognize Daphne from her work on BBC's series Casualty and The Amazing Mrs. Pritchard, HBO's House of Saddam, Netflix Sandman, and France 2's Kabul. Most recently on Greek TV, she appeared in the series Zoe, Παιχνίδια Εκδίκησης, and Dr. Foster. Her film credits include The Ghostwriter, Beckett, The Fourth Kind, The Palace, Siege on Liberty Street, Smeared on My Beloved, Minore, The Hunted, and our Expo 2025 opening film, Murphy's Law, and our recent Christmas film, Kalanda. Wow, Daphne, that's quite a list, quite a resume.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and hello to both of you. It's lovely to see you.
It's always a pleasure to see you. So I have this question, and it always interests me when we do these interviews and we talk about your backgrounds to find out that so many of our guests really started out studying other disciplines before dedicating themselves to acting. So you studied law at Oxford. Tell us, how did that come about? Did you always want to be a lawyer? And when did the acting bug hit? And tell us about that journey.
So, as you probably both know, Greek families um, sort of follow in the footsteps of, the parents. So I come from a very legal family. In fact, if I had continued law, I would have been the fifth generation of lawyers in my family.
Wow.
Wow.
I grew up in a house full of lawyers. During lunch, they were all discussing cases and stuff like that. And it was always understood that I would also study law. And law is not something that you study at school. So I didn't really know what it would mean to be a lawyer. Um, my real passion was literature, books, poetry, films, all of that from the start. Um, and because there was no actor or performer or theater practitioner in my family, I had no idea how anyone went about becoming an actor. And I thought to myself, of course you want to be an actor. Everyone wants to be an actor. I just assumed that everybody, men and women, just wanted to be actors. Um, and I didn't even know there were drama schools. I didn't know they existed. I thought people get chosen in the street, you know,
It
faces
happens. Yeah.
like
School
models. I
plays.
thought that's how, Al Pacino walked down the street and somebody scouted him or something like that. So, um, and I really wanted to study English literature. My mum said, "Do you want to be a teacher?" And I said, "Well, no, I don't really want to be a teacher." And then she said, "Well, study law, you're going to love it." So I kind of went along with it. And I didn't mind the academic studying of it, but I knew that I didn't want to do that at all. So when I graduated, um, I went back home briefly and I was sort of practicing law, but really I was secretly checking out websites of drama schools and theaters and things like that. And finally, um, an opportunity came up. This group of recent graduates from a UK drama school called Bristol Old Vic came to Cyprus to perform Shakespeare's Othello. And the producer was a half Cypriot man who I kind of knew. And a woman dropped out at the last minute, the woman who was going to play the role of Amelia. And through him, I just, he said, I heard you wanted to act. Why don't you try it out? So I went to audition, not knowing anything about it at all. I just thought, I'm just going to try it. So I got the part, and suddenly I was in rehearsals for a Shakespeare play at the open air Ancient Odeon in Paphos, Cyprus.
Wow.
Oh,
And the first day of rehearsal, I almost just went home and did not return. And my then partner said, please just finish this. You really wanted to do it. Just play around with it. It's no big deal. Just finish it. So I persevered, and it just something clicked, and I knew that it was absolutely without a doubt what I wanted to do. And it was just very strange, this sudden, this coincidence that happened. And it was so clear in my head that that was what I
Mm.
wanted to do. And then after that, one thing led to another. I applied to drama schools in England, and I got into Lambda. And I told my parents, I'm just gonna go and do this course for a couple of years and I'll be back. And they were like, oh, okay. And um, when I finished, I was lucky because I got into the BBC show Casualty 3 months after graduating. So
Wow.
there was
Wow.
never the conversation with my parents, the awkward sitting down and telling them, listen, I'm going to be an actor now, and I'm going to be out of work, and I'm going to be trying to get
Mhm,
a
mhm.
job. And then they'd be like, come on, are you sure, etc. So it was just suddenly, guys, I've got a job. I've got a 2-year contract on a BBC series. And they were like, what? Okay. You know, so I was lucky in that way.
That helps the conversation, absolutely.
Really, that was very lucky. So after that, my parents were very supportive and very proud. And even, and in the life of the actor, obviously, there's down times and exciting
Mhm.
times. But it was fine because it started like that. So it was more, it was an easier transition, I think.
Well, I think the legal profession lost an extraordinarily dramatic litigator because I could see you in court slamming
Mhm.
papers and really taking command of that role. But do you remember your very first role? Were you like a shrub in the school play? What was it that gave you that acting bug where you said, hey, I think I want to do this or try it?
When I was at school, they always used to ask me to recite poetry at the school events. I didn't go to, I went to a Greek lyceum in Cyprus, and there wasn't much theatre there at all.
Mhm.
But what they did have is poetry reading during, school ceremonies. And they always used to ask me to do that. And I loved doing that. And I remember once, I think the first time I kind of knew I really liked that was I was reading a book called My Family and Other Animals. Um, and there was a really funny dialogue in this book. Um, and I had this sort of need to record myself reading out this scene. And I remember that really well because I think that was the first inkling. I must have been 12 or something. And by Gerald Durrell. It's a famous book that's called My Family and Other Animals. It's brilliant if you haven't read it.
So,
Um,
what was your impression in hearing your voice, reading this poetry? Were you impressed or were you upset?
Neither, neither. Um, I enjoyed reading poetry at the school ceremonies, and I was quite surprised by being taken over by emotions or by the stories that were, you
Mm.
know, uh, given through the poems. So I
Mhm.
remember being quite surprised by that. And when I recorded that dialogue, I guess, I don't know, it was just a need. It wasn't about impressing myself or doing something right or wrong. It was just a need. I just want to enact it
Mhm.
somehow. That was like when I was 12, and then I went to law, and um,
Mhm.
there was no school play. There was only that Othello, like,
Interesting.
you know, around 20, I was. That was my very first theater
Wow.
experience.
Amazing. So, because you like to travel through your roles and experience the different emotions and realms that being an actor takes you to, can you tell us or pinpoint one role where you said, "Wow, that was special. That was somehow different for you. It touched you. It stayed with you, maybe."
Yeah, that's a difficult one because they all kind of touch me in different ways. I think the siege on Liberty Street, which is
Mm.
Cyprus, with the writer-director Stavros Pambalis, um, was a role that I found very, very difficult and very dark. And it kind of put me, I really went into it. I sort of lived lived that woman's life in a way that I'm not quite sure I did uh, before to the same extent. And there was magic in that experience.
It's a wonderful film. Oh.
It was a wonderful film. It was my first feature film in Cyprus. And even though I had done little tiny bits and pieces in Greek, it was my first bigger feature film, participation in a Greek language film. And I think
Mhm.
that made it quite special. I think because I'd lived in England for, many, many years, I think I had unconsciously missed my language, my heritage,
Mm.
telling stories from my homeland. And I only realized when I got there and I played the part and I was a part of this new, you know, the Greek language industry. And it was a very exciting um, new thing. And that's what started my sort of path in the Greek language work.
Well, so this is the perfect segue into the next question. You've had an international career. Is there a difference for you acting in English versus Greek? Or what is the difference?
Are you asking about the language specifically or about?
How each language resonates with you differently, you personally, and whether you have a preference?
I don't have a preference. I mean, obviously, Greek is my native language, but I lived in England for so many years that I think it's becoming, I don't know, they're equally native to me now.
So you're
So
comfortable in both.
I'm perfectly comfortable in both. Um, but there's also the you know the thing of my, at home I spoke in the Cypriot dialect. Even though at school we were taught, the mainland Greek, the sort of received pronunciation of Greek.
Mhm.
Uh, and I can do both very naturally because I grew up speaking both these dialects. Uh, so when I speak in the Cypriot dialect, something sinks. So it goes back to early memories.
Mhm.
And perhaps I sink deeper into the language, into my
Interesting.
childhood memories.
Childhood, maybe grandparents.
Yeah, grandparents, my memories and my sensations, my early,
Mhm.
early sensations and memories.
Do you have
English,
an opportunity to use this to act in this dialect anytime soon, you think?
done it a few times now. I did a film recently called Maricel,
It
which
was in
you may
Thessaloniki this fall.
in Thessaloniki this fall, so you may be hosting it soon in New York. It was with Elias Dimitriou, and that's when I speak in the Cypriot dialect. It's a world that I haven't lived in a very long time, but when I go back, and because there's been such an absence from Cyprus for so long, it kind of going back, it is kind of, ooh, I don't know, it kind of brings back a kind of something sinks inside.
Yeah,
Like
something very familiar, I'm sure.
there's a familiarity to it. But the same goes for the Greek project. Um, the stuff in Greek, uh, again, it's a different sensation. English, I think I'm more comfortable acting because I trained in England. We trained on Shakespeare and, complicated poetic language and stuff like that. Um, so I'm very comfortable with that. So when I'm suddenly given a complicated poetic Greek text, I need to work on it a lot because I haven't trained in Greece.
If you're bilingual, and the three of us are, that first language resonates a little differently. And that's, I think, when you watch a Greek film or TV and there's a phrase, a word that just so
Mhm.
resonates within you, and it's a different vibration, a different touching of your emotions than say English.
Exactly. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
So you started out in theater doing Othello because, you went easy. You really took the easy way in. I commend you for that. So, if you could only continue to work in one medium, one format, film, TV, or theater, what
Oh,
would it be? Yes. So, I
I
know it's Sophie's choice. I know. I know.
good. Oh, I don't think I can answer that. I will answer though that I would love to work on good scripts, and I don't care what medium that is. Honestly, important thing is for the scripts to be good, uh, so that you feel this need to tell the story.
Hmm.
Just like that scene that I felt the need to actually tell out loud. It's that kind of need, and it really, the medium doesn't matter, and they're very different. At least theater and cinema certainly is, but the truth of it and the need to tell the story is actually the same. Having said that, I haven't done theater in a while, and I miss it,
Hmm.
and I would like to do some theater now. It would be
So
a challenge.
what would be your ideal role in the theatrical production?
I'd love to do Greek tragedy. I'd love to work at Epidaurus. It's obviously every Greek actor's dream to work in Epidaurus. And I love classical theatre, Shakespeare,
Hmm.
Chekhov, Ibsen. I like the classics, Arthur Miller, Tennessee Williams, these things. And I don't care if it's in English or Greek, honestly.
Hmm.
Um, because those stories, they can't go wrong.
There was recently a Broadway production, as well as in Athens. I think it's still showing in Athens, of Oedipus.
Yes.
And the same director modernized Oedipus and just simply translated it from in Greek and English. So it's the same
Hmm.
modern retelling of the story, and it's extraordinary. It's
It's really
extraordinary.
amazing. It's really
I think it's
amazing.
Robert Icke is the director.
Yeah, Robert Icke. Yes, I saw
Hmm. Hmm.
his Oresteia in London. So then they did it in Greek, fully in Greek, or just in English as well?
Oedipus in Greek, fully modern Greek.
Fully modern.
Yes, in fact, it's
Hmm.
Nico Kuri, I believe, and it's Kariofilia Karabeti.
Oh, nice,
Mm.
wonderful.
Wow, that would be something to
That's
watch.
And
brilliant.
yes, and the British, the London version was actually just brought over to Broadway, and they did it
Hmm.
here, and
Hmm.
it was extraordinary.
It was great. Very,
Brilliant.
very.
And
Um,
Puris and I
so,
just worked on Παιχνίδια Εκδίκησης, the series,
Yes,
mhm, mhm.
months ago on Antenna. So we've just
yes.
collaborated. Actually, we collaborated twice. He was in Murphy's Law as well.
Ah,
But he was a bit of a rival in Bechnidi Agdikesis.
Very much a rival. We did not get along. We had
On
many
screen.
on screen, not off screen. Off screen, but he was lovely. But on screen, he was not lovely. And we had many rows.
good. That's the feistiness. Well, what is your next project, Daphne? Even in general terms, let's say.
I mean, listen, there's two, maybe three films that are coming up. The dates are yet to be set, so I would rather not mention names. But there's two, maybe three very, very exciting projects. Two in Greek and one in English that will be confirmed, I hope, very, very soon. And there's many discussions about other things that I hope the plane will clarify
Mm.
over the next few weeks. You've caught me at a moment of sort of I'm hanging a little bit on a few awaiting a few confirmations of dates and
Mhm.
projects.
Well, we can't wait.
Well,
Absolutely, we
I
can't
hope
wait.
they all work out to your satisfaction.
I,
Um,
I
so
hope
best
so.
of luck on that.
I'm
Definitely.
excited to for you to watch new stuff and take it
Mm.
to New York. And the work you do in New York is amazing, by the way. Just sharing, Greek cinema in New York is so good and
Well,
so
thank
much.
you very much. It's because people make good projects. If the projects didn't
Mhm.
exist, then there would be nothing for us to show. So the
Very
thanks
true.
really comes to you. So as you know, March is Women's History Month, and we are dedicating this month to women. Did you
And we will,
have any female mentors? I also like to call it as opening the door, like who held the door for you, and for whom do you hold the door open for?
I think my grandmother uh,
Mm.
opened the door for me. I mean, she was very much a woman of her time. She didn't work. She had her children, but she was an avid reader of everything, and she loved the theatre and the cinema. And she would come to London in the
Mm.
70s, and she would go to some far-flung theater, like not in the center of town, just to catch everything. And
Mhm.
she absolutely loved it. And she was really passionate person and very disobedient spirit. Um, and I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. When I was still doing law, and I had real trouble finishing my exams. Towards the end of, my studies, I was really suffering, and I couldn't concentrate, and I couldn't, it was so hard. So my mum she couldn't come to England to sit there with me and make me work.
Hold your hand.
So she sent my grandmother.
Oh
So
boy.
my grandmother came, and so
She
we were
called
in
in
the
the big
flat.
guns. She wasn't playing. She wanted you to finish. Yeah.
So she sent my grandmother. My grandmother was in the house, and I was, it would take me hours to actually sit down and concentrate. So as soon as I concentrated, it was like, okay, it's like, it's 6 o'clock. I'd better get down to some work in the evening. So 10 minutes later, she would knock on my door and she'd be like, okay, I've just found out that this play starts in 45 minutes. So if
Wow.
we leave now we won't miss the beginning. So come on, let's go. And she would just completely,
Derail you. This was not helping.
Not at
completely
all.
derailing me. And every night we would get up and go and watch theater together and cinema.
Amazing.
She
I
was
thought you were going to say she was busy cooking. So
No, no, no,
this
no.
is
She wasn't like that. She was a very she lived
very
a very
progressive.
simple life, but she was a very progressive grandmother. For
Yeah.
example, when we were, I mean, when I was 9 and my cousin was 7 and all of the other cousins were younger, my mother and father had to go to the States for a long time for work, and we went to stay in a hotel by the beach. And she would wake us up every morning at 6 a.m. to take us to learn water skiing because she had decided that it's very, very important that we all learn how to water ski. And my grandfather was like, are you crazy? They're going to have an accident and they're going to kill us. And, our children are going to kill us. And for God's sake, be careful. And she was like, oh, stop it. It's going to be fine. They have to learn water skiing. It's so wonderful. So, so thanks to her, I learned to water ski, and it's my favorite thing in the world as well. So yeah, so to answer your question, yeah, my grandmother, I think, was a major kind of a lovely, progressive,
Mhm.
slightly contrary spirit around the place, which was different to everyone else.
Had she
Um,
attempted to water ski herself? I'm just curious.
No, she was an avid swimmer, but she didn't water ski herself.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay.
But
Well, listen, if there's ever a role that calls for water skiing, you're
oh my
set.
God, I know.
That's right.
Or a
You
lawyer.
said-
I would love
Or
to
a
play
lawyer.
a lawyer.
Yes, yes, definitely. Why not?
Love
So
Now,
to.
did she ever see you? Did she get to see your work?
Yes, yes, she did. She passed 2 years ago.
Ah,
Sadly, she was the ripe old age of 95. So, she had a wonderful,
wonderful.
um, and she did see me. Yeah, yeah,
good.
both on stage and screen.
Who do you hold the door open for? Like, who do you turn around and pay it forward to?
I've thought, I've thought about this, and in Cyprus, Um, even though there's wonderful theater and cinema and all of that, the way we grew up, um, the arts weren't really accessible to us because we just assumed, at least I did, that, as I said before, like, what am I going to do? I can't, I'm a Cypriot girl. How am I going to go and be an actor? It's a bit ridiculous, right? And I really want, through my work and through my what I'm doing and hopefully what I'll continue to do, to inspire other girls uh, who might have a secret dream of anything, something
Mm.
that it's possible, that it's even if it's far flung or far fetched, or nobody in their family does it, or nobody in not much of it is seen in Cyprus, or that it can happen, and that sometimes things, kind of coincidences, happen to lead you where you want to go. And that's how I want to hold the door open, actually.
That's an empowering message,
Yeah, and
and not to give up, not to give up.
to give up and not to think it's impossible.
Exactly. So
Well, there's
what is
something special there in Cyprus because for a small island with a relatively small population,
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys really produce extraordinary actors,
Mhm.
directors, cinematographers,
Brilliant.
musicians. I mean, there is no shortage of art coming out of there.
And really, there are difficulties and there are challenges because, as you say, it's a small island, and it's difficult for the voice of the island to be heard. And yet, so there needs to be encouragement and inspiration, and
Mhm.
just we can do it.
So what would be your advice to aspiring actors, specifically to aspiring actors?
To not be afraid to try it, and to experiment, and to not be afraid of, oh, I don't know exactly how to do it, or oh, I wouldn't be good, or I don't know how to do it. To just try, and you learn by doing, and you discover what you like and what you want purely by doing. And there's a freedom in that, and to not curb your freedom, I think, inside. We do, I think,
We
don't we?
self-sabotage sometimes.
We do that, don't we?
Yeah.
Maybe
Yep.
women,
Hmm.
we kind of assume roles, and then we think that we can't go out of those roles necessarily because they're so
Or we're not good enough sometimes, and
not good
you don't
enough.
know until you try.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
And failure is actually a learning experience. That's what I always tell people.
And
So,
things and our lives can be different. They don't all have to adhere to the same
mhm,
rules, even if those rules are quite set, we can disobey them and just try things that, you know, nobody in our entourage has tried. And you
mhm.
never know. At least
So,
you would learn something.
yes, of
At the
course.
very least, you will learn something about yourself and about the world.
Absolutely. So this brings us to you're so good at queuing us up in your transitions, Daphne. Um, this is the last question. If you could describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
Oof, Jesus, Mary.
Just save the best for last.
One word. Oof. I would like to be open or receptive. I guess that's what I would say. Like, that's what came up for me just in that moment.
I think that's so true, right? You have been open to every possibility of your life,
Mhm.
and that's what's brought you here.
Yeah, I
You
hope
have been open to receive what the universe wanted you to follow. That's fantastic.
Mhm.
Great answer.
Yes, definitely. Well, Daphne, thank you for joining us and
guys,
for
thank you
spending
so
time
much.
with us and having this lovely conversation. Uh, and To our audience, if you enjoyed our conversation and would like to learn more about the Hellenic Film Society, please go to our website, www.hellenicfilmsociety.org.